more again to this third part of this reflection. We have just seen the background of why Jesus had to do what he did. Remember, our theme is the loyalty of service and the ultimate love. And during this part, we are going to look at the essential of the washing. Did just Jesus wash the disciples' feet for the sake of doing it? No. Initially, we have seen that he did this to give them a teaching. And now I would wish as we go to the deeper teaching of this. We have already seen that in John, we have always to be looking for two meanings. The meaning which lies on the surface and the meaning which beneath the surface. In this story, there is undoubtedly a second meaning. On the surface, it is dramatically an unforgettable lesson in humility. That's what we have seen. When we look at the surface of this, the major teaching is about the humility. But there is more into this. And there is only one very difficult passage. And this difficult passage that we really need to understand very well is why Peter is refusing Jesus to wash his feet. At first, Peter refuses to allow Jesus to wash his feet. Jesus tells him that unless he accepts this washing, he will have no part with him. Peter then begs that not only his feet, but his hands and his head should also be washed. But Jesus tells him that it is enough that his feet should be washed. Why should he be washed the whole body? He was coming for a feast. That means that he had washed his body. The only part which are dirty is the legs, because he has walked in a muddy area. He has not been having very good shoes as we have today. The difficult sentence and the one with an inner meaning is, he who has been bathed has need only to have his feet washed. Beyond doubt, there is a reference to Christian baptism here. You remember Nicodemus, who visited Jesus during the night and asked Jesus that he needed to be baptized? And Jesus told him, unless you are baptized, then you shall not have the eternal life. So unless you are washed, you can have no part in me. So Jesus is simply like bringing also a teaching of the importance of baptism to us. It's a way of saying, unless you pass through the gate of baptism, you have no part in the church. The point is this. It was the custom that before people went to a feast, they bathed themselves, as I have said. When they came to the house of their host, they do not need to be bathed again. All they needed was to have their feet washed. The washing of the feet was the ceremony which preceded entry into the house where they were to be guests. It was that what we might call the washing of entry into the house. So Jesus says to Peter, it is not the bathing of your body that you require. That you can do for yourself. What you need is the washing which marks entry into the household of the faith. This explains another thing. Peter at first is going to refuse to allow Jesus to wash his feet. Jesus says that if he does, he will have no part in him. It is as if Jesus said, Peter, you are going to be proud to let me do this for you. If you lose everything, then you will have to lose everything. To be served does not give us a room to be pride. What do I mean that to be served does not give us a room to be pride or proud? I mean this. Some of the things we are just given them easily by the church. For example, the baptism. But you'll find that there are people who are very, very proud. They say, no, I cannot bring my children for baptism. That is into our Christian context. But because we are talking about the loyalty of the service and the ultimate love, let us look back even in our homes, whereby we have people who are serving us. Sometimes we are very, very proud. Very, very proud that we make it very difficult for people who have good intention to serve us not to be in a position to do it. Someone comes and serves you tea and you says, no, I cannot use this cup. This particular person goes and brings you something. A story is told of a husband and wife. really need to concentrate much on our families, and this also brings as a bigger picture of how we stay, because we all come from the families, then to the extension where we work, and to extension where we live most of the places when we are outside of the family. That this wife would cook a boiled egg. The husband who he is serving refused to eat the boiled egg on this particular day. The following day, she cooks a fried egg. The same husband who refused to eat the boiled eggs is very proud he does not want to eat. Dear friends, to be served does not give us a room to be proud. To be invited to receive the sacraments in the church does not make us to feel proud. Now friends, having looked at that, I would wish us we look another part, that the shame of disloyalty and the glory of fidelity. Where does the shame of disloyalty comes in? The shame of disloyalty, we are going to see who is disloyal at this case. And all of us, your guess may be as right as mine. The person who is disloyal here is Judas. Jesus is very close to him, but out of that, he is very disloyal. It is not about you or that I'm speaking. I know the kind of men whom I have chosen. It is all happening that the scripture should be fulfilled. Remember in the introduction we said that Jesus knew that everything which was planned, and he knew that the hour was at hand. He who eats my bread has lifted up his heel against me. This is a very bitter statement in a way. I'm telling you this now before it happens, so that when it does happen, you may believe that I am who I claim to be. This is the truth I tell you. He who receives whomsoever I send, receive me. And he who receives me, receive him who sent me. The consequence of not receiving those that God have sent to us, those that God is giving us. On this particular passage, there are three things stressed in this passage. The sheer cruelty of Judas' disloyalty is vividly pictured in a way which we would be specifically pregnant to an Eastern mind. Jesus used a quotation from Psalms 41, verse 9. In the full quotation it runs, "Even my bosom friend, in whom I trusted, who ate of my bread, has lifted his heel against me." In the East, to eat bread with anyone was a sign of friendship and an act of royalty. Just same as in our culture, that when you invite people for a meal, it means that you invite someone really you are very close to. A person that you are in a position to share in the same plate, it means that you have a very tight relationship. And you can also see this quotation from the second book of Samuel, chapter 9, verse 7, and then verse 13. Tell his how David granted it to Mephibosheth to eat bread at his table, when he might well have eliminated him as a descendant of Saul. And also from the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 19, tells us how the prophet of Baal ate bread at the table of Jezebel. For one who had eaten bread at someone's table to turn against the person to whom by that very act he had pledged his friendship was a bitter thing. And this is the bitter thing that is here on this contest. That sharing a meal with a person and then the same person betrays. Let us look. How many people do we laugh with? But deep in our hearts, deep in our minds, we are preparing to betray them. How many people do we pretend that we are very great friends to them? But deep in our minds, we are planning something else. We are going to look at the second teaching as we come back. Let's have another short break.